Hi, Gary Stearman. Time for another update from Prophecy Watchers. I want to talk about fear today. We're being conditioned, I think, planet-wide to fear catastrophe, whether it's global warming or the sea rising or all kinds of weather anomalies, volcanism, super earthquakes, tsunamis. We're being trained to fear, and if you're like me, you've noticed that from time to time on television or in the movies, catastrophe pictures are made. And the catastrophe could be anything from a super earthquake to a super cold wave to, well, an asteroid falling out of the sky. In fact, as I speak today, there is a program being heavily promoted on the possibility that an asteroid from out of nowhere is going to hit the planet. And if it hits the planet the wrong way, everybody is dead. Life is extinguished on planet Earth. Which brought me to something that's been in the news for a while. I don't know whether you've noticed that NASA is working on a test to deflect a potential asteroid strike on planet Earth. And of course, we don't want an asteroid strike, but NASA has a program called Asteroid Impact and Deflection Assessment. The initials AIDA sound like the opera, AIDA, a very musical solution to a very bad problem. And it's called the Asteroid Impact and Deflection Assessment System. It will be the first demonstration, and I'm reading a NASA news release here, the first demonstration of the kinetic impact technique to change the motion of an asteroid in space. AIDA, it's called. AIDA is a dual mission concept involving two independent spacecraft, NASA's double asteroid redirection test called DART, and the impact mission called AIM. Well, a lot of wonderful wonderful epigrams there. Point is, NASA is very, very busily learning what it has to do to deflect an asteroid. AIDA, remember that name. Probably you'll be hearing about it in the very near future. A science-driven test of several technologies, and they involve what's called a kinetic impactor, which is a fancy term for ramming the asteroid with something very, very heavy and knocking it off course so that on its next orbit, it'll miss the Earth instead of hitting the Earth. And as I was reading about this, my thought went to the Bible and the future judgment on planet Earth. And if you've read the judgments of Revelation, the seals, the trumpets, the bowls of wrath, you know that there's some pretty horrific things in our future. But I was thinking particularly of the second trumpet, Revelation 8:8. And the second angel sounded, and as it were, a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea. And a third part of the sea became blood, and a third part of the creatures which were in the sea and had life died, and the third part of the ships were destroyed. Wow, that's a big asteroid. And let's face it, the biblical description, a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea. That's exactly what computer-generated conceptuology of a plunging asteroid looks like. You have this huge mountainous object, maybe the size of Mount Everest, or maybe a little bigger, streaking through the upper atmosphere and leaving behind a fiery trail. That's exactly what it says. A mountain, great mountain burning with fire, cast into the sea. You know, I thought about this, and this led me to think about the idea of fear and panic. There's so much in today's world, beginning with perhaps a nuclear pulse, an electromagnetic pulse in the upper atmosphere that wipes out our electricity, wipes out our running water. No more pumps to pump the water. Wipes out our fuel supply. You go to the gas station, pull on the lever, nothing comes out of the pump because it's driven by electricity. Well, if the power grid's gone down, nothing works. What are people going to do? fear, panic, widespread, uncontrolled rage in the streets. And you think about this, and of course you don't want to think about it very long. You start thinking about this. What do you think about? What would I do? Well, that brings me to something that I have noticed in the Bible. And I'm turning to 1 John 4. And there are a couple things very, very interesting in 1 John chapter 4 that I think we should remember in days of potential panic and fear. 1 John 4:7 says, "Beloved, let us love one another, for love is of God, and everyone that loveth is born of God and knoweth God. He that loveth not knoweth not God, for God is love." And in a moment, John comes to a remarkable conclusion that I think we should all remember when we think about things like an asteroid plunging into the sea, or a massive set of earthquakes that wipe out half the population on a continent. You got to remember that God is love. You know, the little three-word expression, God is love, occurs only two places in the Bible. 1 John 4:8 and 1 John 4:16. And think about the implications of that three-word sentence. God is love. That's maybe the most amazing statement in the whole Bible, because when you think of God, you think of omniscience, omnipotence, omnipresence, absolute control. A God so powerful that you can't even imagine how powerful he is. A God who says in Isaiah 46 that he created the end from the beginning. In other words, he created a timeline starting at the other end and working back. How do you do that? I don't know. But God knows. He is unbelievably powerful. But John says, no, God is love. Well, what is love? You've read 1 Corinthians 13. The love chapter, and you have some idea of how selfless love is. Well, God is said to be love. Now, I'm going to read on down to the other God is love phrase in 1 John 4. And beginning in 4:16, where John says, "And we have known and believed the love of God that God hath to us." God is love. And he that dwelleth in love dwelleth in God, and God in him. Herein is our love made perfect, that we may have boldness in the day of judgment. Because as he is, so are we in this world. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casteth out fear. Because fear hath torment. He that feareth is not made perfect in love. And that's where I wanted to go today after having read about the AIDA program, the possibility that an asteroid might plunge into planet Earth and do away with half of the population. When I think about all the things that could go wrong, nuclear war, and of course that's in the news these days. There is a strange little man over on the shore of the Pacific, on a little peninsula, who's daily sending up wonderful little ICBMs, and one of these days he says he'll have perfected the ability to lob a nuclear weapon into the United States. So, do you fear when you think about that? It's fascinating. 1 John 4:17, I want to repeat it. Herein is our love made perfect, that we may have boldness in the day of judgment. Because as he is, so are we in this world. There's no fear in love, but perfect love casteth out fear. What a thought. What an amazing thought. Have you completely realized that thought in your own life? Has the perfect love of God cast out the fear that you experience on occasion? Fear writes John, has torment, that is, punishment. But because as he is, so are we in this world. In other words, think about where your mind should rest in within the prospect of a jillion different things that could go wrong. And if you're like me and you cruise the web day after day and you look at news releases and you see news releases that involve things like asteroids plunging into the world and intercontinental nuclear warfare and the collapse of great powers, and what do you feel welling up inside of you? Fear. Just remember, and I will want to look at it again. Herein is our love made perfect, that we may have boldness in the day of judgment. Because as he is, so are we in this world. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casteth out fear. Just a little something to think about in light of today's news. I'm Gary Stearman. Hey, keep watching. We are. Thanks for joining us on Prophecy Watchers. You can find us on the web at prophecywatchers.com, where you can sign up for our free email newsletter, or follow us at facebook.com/prophecywatchers. In the meantime, keep watching, everybody, and we'll see you soon.